A landmark UK study revealed that French Bulldogs are more likely to develop 20 common health disorders compared to other dog breeds, a stark testament to the consequences of breeding for appearance over health. For the last 3 consecutive years, the French Bulldog has reigned as America's most popular dog breed, a title held for an astonishing 31 years prior by the Labrador Retriever. This is not merely a shift in trends, it is a cultural phenomenon. The Frenchie's rise to the top has been fueled by a perception that it is the perfect companion for modern life. Described by the American Kennel Club as affectionate, playful, and highly adaptable, they seem tailor-made for city living, thriving in small apartments and not known for being particularly noisy. This adoration, however, masks a deeply disturbing paradox. The very features that have propelled the French Bulldog to superstardom are the direct cause of a lifetime of suffering. Veterinarians often use a chilling analogy to describe what it feels like to be a French Bulldog. Imagine trying to breathe through a narrow straw for your entire life. This is the reality of Brachycephalic obstructive airway syndrome, a condition that is not an unfortunate side effect, but a direct result of the breed's defining, pushed-in face. The struggle for air begins at the very first point of entry. The nostrils are often so narrow and malformed that they look like small slits. With each inward breath, these nostrils can collapse, severely restricting airflow and forcing the dog to breathe through its mouth. This obstruction is a primary cause of the snoring, snorting, and gagging sounds that are so often mistaken for cute Frenchie noises. They are the audible evidence of an animal fighting against its own anatomy for every breath. Tragically, many owners do not recognize these sounds as signs of suffering, instead viewing them as normal for the breed. They are clinical signs of a compromised respiratory system, indicating that the dog is working harder than normal just to perform the basic function of breathing. To accurately represent the welfare implications, the conversation must be reframed. The French Bulldog's head shape is not just a breed type or conformation, it is a medically recognized syndrome of congenital abnormalities that we have deliberately engineered for aesthetics at the expense of health. The brachycephalic body plan of the French Bulldog does not predispose it to just one health issue. It creates an interconnected web of suffering. The problems are not a matter of if, but when and how severely. Brachycephalic obstructive airway syndrome is not a singular disease, but rather a complex of structural abnormalities. The constant effort of breathing can cause the laryngeal saccules, small tissue pockets near the vocal cords, to be sucked inside out and into the airway, creating further blockage. Finally, many French Bulldogs also suffer from a hypoplastic trachea, meaning their windpipe is congenitally narrower than it should be, restricting the total volume of air that can ultimately reach the lungs. The French Bulldog's health problems extend far beyond its face. Its signature body shape, including its cute tail, is a harbinger of debilitating spinal conditions. The breed's coiled screw tail is not a harmless cosmetic feature. It is the external sign of a congenital spinal deformity known as hemivertebrae. While this deformity is obvious in the tail, it frequently occurs unseen in other parts of the spine, from the neck to the lower back. These malformed vertebrae do not align properly, leading to an unstable and often crooked spinal column that puts pressure on the delicate spinal cord. Studies have found that up to 97% of French Bulldogs examined had at least one of these abnormal vertebrae. French Bulldogs are a chondrodystrophic breed, a term for dwarfism characterized by abnormal cartilage development. This genetic predisposition causes the cushioning discs between their vertebrae to degenerate and harden prematurely. When a disc herniates, its contents press on the spinal cord, causing inflammation, intense pain, and nerve damage. To make matters worse, French Bulldogs are far more likely than other breeds to develop myelomalacia following a severe disc herniation, a progressive, untreatable, and fatal softening of the spinal cord. This reality leads to a heartbreaking misinterpretation of the dog's behavior. The breed is often described as having a low-energy personality, content to lounge around. However, symptoms of these skeletal conditions include reluctance to move, decreased activity, and an unwillingness to jump up. An owner can easily mistake these signs of chronic pain for laziness or stubbornness. The dog is not choosing to be inactive. It is inactive because moving hurts. This means countless Frenchies may live for years with untreated or undertreated pain, their silent suffering only acknowledged when it escalates to a crisis like audible crying or sudden paralysis. A dog's primary method for cooling down is panting. However, due to the severe airway obstructions of a brachycephalic body, a French Bulldog cannot pant effectively. They are physically incapable of moving enough air to cool themselves down. This makes them a breed with a broken thermostat. As a result, they are at an extremely high risk for heatstroke, a potentially fatal condition. Studies have found that flat-faced breeds are more than twice as likely to suffer from heatstroke compared to dogs with normal muzzles. For a French Bulldog, a moderately warm day, anything over 80 degrees Fahrenheit or 26 degrees Celsius, a short period of exercise, or even a bout of overexcitement can be enough to trigger a dangerous spike in body temperature. Once their temperature rises above 106 degrees Fahrenheit, organ damage begins, and it can quickly become fatal. Tragically, 1 in 7 dogs treated by veterinarians for heatstroke does not survive. Severe exercise intolerance is a hallmark symptom of brachycephalic dogs. They tire with minimal exercise and are prone to collapsing if they overdo it. This means their world is necessarily small and restricted. Long walks in the park, vigorous games of fetch, or running freely with other dogs are often off limits. Owners must act as constant risk managers, carefully limiting all activity, especially in warm or humid weather, to prevent a respiratory crisis. While they may have the spirit of a playful dog, they are trapped in a body that forces them to live life on the sidelines, often relegated to the couch. For most dogs, water can be a source of great joy and exercise. For a French Bulldog, any body of water, a swimming pool, a lake, even a deep puddle, is a potential death trap. The breed is physically incapable of swimming. This inability stems from a perfect storm of anatomical flaws. First, their body shape is the opposite of buoyant. They have a top-heavy, muscular build with a disproportionately large head and chest, combined with short, stubby legs that provide little propulsion. This structure causes them to sink, often described by owners as dropping like a brick. Second, even if they could stay afloat, their brachycephalic face makes breathing in water impossible. To keep their short nose above the surface, they must tilt their head back at an extreme and exhausting angle. This awkward posture makes it incredibly difficult to paddle and breathe simultaneously, and it dramatically increases the risk of inhaling water. Because of this, French Bulldogs require constant, direct supervision around any water and must be fitted with a life jacket for any aquatic activity. Perhaps the most damning indictment of the French Bulldog's design is its inability to reproduce naturally. The breed is defined by a biological contradiction: mothers with very narrow hips and puppies with very large heads. This mismatch, known as feto-pelvic disproportion, makes natural birth extremely difficult and dangerous, a condition called dystocia. The statistics are staggering. Studies show that over 80% of all French Bulldog litters are delivered via C-section. Each surgery carries significant risks for the mother, including complications from anesthesia, post-operative infection, and a difficult recovery. As descendants of the original bulldogs used in the brutal sport of bull baiting, Frenchies possess an unusually high tolerance for pain. They were bred for tenacity, and this has left them genetically wired to conceal their suffering, a useful trait for a fighting dog, but a devastating one for a companion animal. Because they do not always exhibit pain in obvious ways, their health problems are often overlooked until they become severe. A Frenchie may continue to eat despite agonizing dental pain because the instinct to eat is essential for survival. Behaviors that owners might dismiss as stubbornness or laziness can in fact be signs of pain or a simple inability to breathe properly. This stoicism creates a perfect storm where severe suffering goes unrecognized. dismissed as just a part of the breed's quirky personality. As the breed's fame grew, kennel clubs began to establish official breed standards to codify its desirable traits. These documents became a blueprint for suffering. The standard, written and revised, calls for the very features that cause the health problems. The resulting health crisis is not an unfortunate coincidence. It is the logical conclusion of breeding directly toward this blueprint. A perfect French Bulldog, according to the official standard, is by definition a dog with the anatomical precursors for brachycephalic body, spinal disease, and birthing difficulties. A healthier dog with a longer muzzle or a straight tail would be penalized or even disqualified in a show ring, demonstrating a systemic, institutionalized enforcement of unhealthy traits. The system itself rewards the creation of sick animals. The French Bulldog is a breed under siege from its own immune system. They have one of the highest genetic predispositions to canine atopic dermatitis, a chronic, incurable allergic skin disease that causes a lifetime of discomfort. Their bodies overreact to a host of triggers. They suffer from environmental allergies to substances like pollen, dust mites, and mold, as well as food allergies, often to common proteins such as chicken, beef, or dairy. The result is a portrait of misery, a relentless body-wide itch known as pruritus. This manifests as obsessive licking and chewing of the paws, rubbing their face on carpets, and frantic scratching that leads to red, inflamed skin, bald patches, oozing hot spots, and crusty sores. Managing this condition is a frustrating and expensive lifelong battle involving strict elimination diets, medicated baths, antihistamines, and other powerful drugs to suppress the immune response. These health problems do not occur in a vacuum. They create a synergistic hell where one condition makes another worse. For example, an allergic reaction causes systemic inflammation. This inflammation makes the already narrow ear canals swell, trapping moisture and making an ear infection almost inevitable. The allergy also causes the skin to itch. The dog scratches, often targeting the skin folds. The scratching breaks the skin's surface, introducing bacteria into the warm, moist environment of the fold, which is the perfect recipe for a secondary bacterial infection. The allergies exacerbate the anatomical flaws, and the anatomical flaws make the allergic symptoms harder to manage, trapping the dog in a vicious feedback loop of suffering. The culmination of these health issues is a tragically shortened life. While breed clubs often quote an average lifespan of 10 to 12 years for a French Bulldog, this figure is dangerously misleading. A landmark 2022 study conducted by the Royal Veterinary College in the United Kingdom delivered a sobering truth. The study found that the median life expectancy for a French Bulldog from birth is just 4.5 years. This was the lowest of all 18 breeds analyzed and is less than half the 11.2-year average for dogs overall. The reason for this stark discrepancy is that the French Bulldog has a much higher probability of dying during puppyhood and young adulthood compared to other breeds. The high rate of early mortality from congenital issues, respiratory crises, or spinal injuries drastically pulls down the average lifespan for the breed as a whole. The 10 to 12-year figure may represent the potential for the lucky few who survive the genetic minefield of their youth, but it hides the tragic reality for far, far too many. The data suggests that for every Frenchie that lives to be a senior, many others do not make it past their 5th birthday. Once an owner is emotionally bonded to their pet, they face the devastating choice of paying for exorbitant medical care or watching their companion suffer. The financial burden of this breed's inherent defects is astronomical, with corrective airway surgeries costing up to $4,500 and emergency spinal procedures soaring as high as $9,000. Beyond surgery, the relentless lifelong management of chronic allergies and infections drains finances through specialized diets and medications, accumulating to thousands annually. Consequently, the cumulative cost of care for this breed presents a substantial and ongoing financial commitment for any owner. The system preys on the love an owner develops for their dog to extract thousands more in medical costs over the animal's short and often painful life. The French Bulldog's tragic state is not an accident of nature. It is the direct result of human intervention. The breed's history is a story of how aesthetic preferences gradually overrode any consideration for health and function. The breed originated from the toy-sized bulldogs brought to France by English lace workers in the 19th century. These early ancestors were more athletic, with longer legs, longer muzzles, and straighter backs, a far cry from the dog we see today. Over time, breed standards established by kennel clubs began to codify the features that would lead to the modern Frenchie's health crisis. This evolution was driven entirely by what humans found visually appealing, the desire for a dog with a cute, baby-like face and a stocky build. The functional consequences of these traits were ignored. The recent explosion in popularity of fad colors like blue, lilac, and merle, which are disqualified by the official breed standard but command high prices on the consumer market, has only worsened the problem, incentivizing a new wave of irresponsible breeding focused solely on novelty and profit, with even less regard for health. The story of the French Bulldog is a tragedy of our own making. We have taken a dog and, in our quest for a certain look, have designed it for a life of suffering. It is America's most popular dog, and simultaneously one of its most medically compromised. The features we celebrate as cute are, in fact, its congenital deformities. The sounds we find comical are the noises of its struggle to breathe. Its perceived stoicism hides an immense capacity for pain, and its tragically short life is a direct indictment of our choices. The power to break this cycle does not lie with the breeders or the kennel clubs alone. It lies with the consumer. It is time for us to look past the charming photos on social media and the endearing human-like expressions and see the reality of what we are promoting. The most compassionate act we can perform for the French Bulldog is to stop fueling the demand that is the source of its pain. We must choose health over aesthetics, function over fashion, and welfare over whimsy. The Royal Veterinary College offers a simple but profound piece of advice that should be the final word for anyone considering this breed. Stop and think before buying a flat-faced dog.